One more thing about Dave Meltzer. How can we not mention this? On the Dave Meltzer
You
claimed
love
recently.
Meltzer. You love Meltzer today.
Yeah, he's good for content. Claimed that when Monday Night Raw's ratings dipped below the 4.0 mark, he received a call from WWE executive Ed Cohen to join the company's creative team. However, he turned down the offer immediately as he wanted to be a sports writer. Quote, I shot it down immediately. I wanted to be a sports writer. People go, oh, you wanted to be a booker? You wanted to be a pro wrestler? Never wanted any of those things. I wanted to be a writer, so I did that. Do you believe that Dave Meltzer was offered to join the WWE creative team at some point?
I don't believe it. I don't, because that's like saying, hey, we know wrestling, but all of a sudden a dirt sheet writer knows more than we do. He may have a couple of ideas for the next couple of months, but even fans have that. But he turned it down, and I could say that if he was offered, I don't think he was offered, but he turned it down. He was making more money selling that dirt sheet than he would be on the creative team anyway. Those guys don't make much money either. They make money, but not what you think they make. What do you think they make?
Oh, I don't know. I've never thought about that. Like a junior creative team member. I don't know, 60,000 or something. Who knows?
Well, less than 100. And I think the top guys only make about, I may be wrong, but I think back then the top guy was making 150. But look at the pressure they're under.
Yeah, but especially with Vince as well, where he'd call you
no
meetings at all hours in the night.
Oh man, he'd cuss them out. And I've told this before. I'm gonna tell it again. That's how I could tell if Vince was in a good mood when I first got to TV. When I first got to Raw, this is back 10 years ago or so. First Raw and SmackDown, I would look in the creative room where the writers were. If they were like loose and laughing, oh, okay, Vince is in a good mood. If I looked in there and it looked like, oh God, they were writing stuff. I said, oh boy, Vince has already reamed them out. And now they're in there. Now they're nervous. And so, okay. So I would meet Vince later, or we'd go over a finish or whatever, and I could tell you what kind of mood he's in. He was always in a good mood when I was around him, more or less. It may have just been my, sparkling personality that always brightened his day, but I always got along with Vince pretty well. I never had any bad dealings with him, really.
I know they offered you during the Zeb Colter run a WWE backstage agent producer role, or if you'd be interested. Did no one ever ask for you to join the creative team? Because it's not like you didn't have years worth of successful booking experience behind you.
I didn't want to do it.
No, but that might be the case. But did no one ever mention it to you or suggest that you'd be a good fit?
I heard it maybe one time. I didn't hear it anymore. Because you were just talking. You were just talking about know your role and do your role. My role was a manager with swagger. That's all I was concerned about. I don't want to go in there and in that room and hear, well, so and so don't want to do this and so don't want to do that. It's not fun. I can work like that because that's just what's going to happen when you that when you take the job on. But if you're there, you got to get there the same time Vince gets there. Sometimes Vince would do this to the writers. They would have Raw, and he'd go to his hotel. Of course, the writers were in the same hotel as Vince. So if he needed them, they're in 506 or one's in 705 or whatever. He would call them up, get them up sometimes at 3:00 in the morning. They had just gotten in from the show, from Raw. And he would call them all to his room, and they'd be there at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. That's what they had to do. And I didn't feel like doing that. And but Vince doesn't sleep anyway. Vince sleeps about 3 or 4 hours a night. And we've all read about things that Vince doesn't sleep. He doesn't sleep. He's a
vampire.
No kidding. He's a vampire. You see him in the morning. If you get up early, Not that I would get up early, but sometimes I would get up about 8:39. He was already up and ready and walking out the door. I went, but and he didn't get in till like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. And then when he gets in, you know what he would do then?
Work out.
He'd go to the gym 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning with his personal trainer. And then he'd go back and he'd get back at, say, 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock. And then he'd sleep a couple hours. Then he'd get up and get dressed and he's ready to go do the day again. Hard to believe that even at his age, I think he still does it today.
Just because you mentioned it, do you remember who suggested that maybe you join the creative team, or do you not remember who may have advanced
I don't remember. But it was just it was one of the agents. So why don't you? They asked me. They didn't suggest me. They asked me about it. Would I want to do it? And I told them no. But I would have done it if say a higher up had come to me and said, "Hey, we were interested in getting you on the creative team." And that's a little different story. It's according to who asks and who brings it up. But if he was just one of the agents, well, hell, I had more stroke needed. So, but an idea is an idea. So I give an idea to him one time. I said, why don't you, I forgot what it was about. Oh, I did get us another pay-per-view match. I said, why don't we run the Russian versus the All-American, the Real American, one more time and with some flags or something? And he loved the idea. And I says, wait a minute. When I told him this, he said, that's a hell of an idea. It's a hell of an idea. I says, okay, they haven't thought about this before? He went, no. I said, they never thought of trying to put an American against a Russian in a gimmick match. They hadn't even thought about it. He said, no, hadn't even thought about it. I went, to me, that would be like one of the things I would kind of push for in the future. Because if you're going to put these two guys, Russian, American, I mean, it has natural heat to begin with. So, and they never would put over Swagger, so we never got any of it. And they just kept pushing Rusev. I told you about the time Lana slapped me, right?
Oh, I think you mentioned it last week, in fact, yeah.
Oh, my God. Hell, why I brought it up? Because she slapped me so hard. I think she busted my eardrum. That's why I'm about deaf in this ear. I don't think because of that, but through age and probably her slapping me. She said, well, I don't want to hurt you. I said, you want to hurt me. Boom. God dang.
No wonder you don't like Rusev.
She almost knocked me down. I said, what the hell? But anyway, but she was always good to work with. And Rusev was good to work with. I just there was a lot of ways to spice it up. I would have put some Memphis in there. Please. Let's put some bull crap in here and let's get it up. And, because the people, they come to be entertained, but they were trying to paint Rusev as this unbeatable force, which I never really saw. But we had good matches, but we just never. I think I would have booked it totally different. See, just putting over a heel week after week after week, it doesn't do anything for him, really. But if you put in something that's a little bit off center, a little bit, use Lana a little more, or this, that, and the other, and sometimes actually get a pin on him, now he can come back and just beat the crap out of you. And now he may have some heat.
You need Jimmy Hart in a chicken outfit to just wander out one day.
Well, to me, Jimmy Hart was over, and I don't care what they did with him, even in Memphis. I've seen Memphis, them cart him out of the ring, and he'd show up the next day on TV the next week with an arm in a cast and a neck cast on, and he's wheeled out there in the wheelchair, and his voice was a little but he's still there fighting. And people love that in Memphis.